one of the things that is really nice about Cozumel is its carnival, or its the Mardi Gras. You know, the high point starts on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Tuesday, which is what I'm videotaping today, is the final parade that goes down the waterfront, and the whole town turns out. There were some other parades on Saturday and Sunday, kind of your warm-up, so to speak, but the real Megillah happens about now. And I got a seat at the Del Museo restaurant, which is one of my favorite places because you can see it overlooks the bay, and the waiters are extremely friendly. It's one of the places you should really get to know. It has a nice breakfast, a nice lunch, and a nice dinner. But what makes it very special is the ambience there. The waiters are very generous, and you can sit around and you can nurse a Coke like I do as a writer and as a poet, and there's nobody hassles you, you know, and they're always ready to make any accommodation they can. So when I found out about that they had seats here, I booked one for Tuesday. And I got a nice seat right at the edge where I could film this because I wanted to make a record of it. And what we're looking at now basically is before the parade starts. You know, this is the final parade, and it has all of the big floats that are in the preliminary parades, but plus a lot of local floats that people put together just for this night. And of course you can see the vendors are as colorful as the parade, as one of the big ships that will take off soon in the middle of the parade, and of course the vendors carry huge amounts. If you wonder how they built the Mayan pyramids, these guys are used to carrying big loads, although they're rather light compared to stones, but you know, you get the idea. The bigness doesn't bother them. Look at the balloon man, he just is surrounded by them, and it's a nice thing to watch with all the vendors going up and down, and the kids are excited. And I happened to be seated next to a woman who had come with her grandkids, her husband and her daughter and his husband. There she is right there, Lynn. And she had all of the beads and the candies to throw to the kids. That's what's happening here now. The kids are jumping up and down for the beads and the candy. And so it was my first experience of throwing things down at people. And that's what you're looking at there. And now here you have the parade. I've taken out the original music of the parade. You can hear that if you'd like in an earlier version, which is also on there. It's called the same thing, you know, the Mardi Gras Parade Tuesday. But it has the original track. But because it's so noisy there that and there's so many different soundtracks play. This band after band chooses its own music, and they're jammed on top of each other. That you really that the sound gets a little tinny. So I put in some of my own music I composed with GarageBand, and I hope you like it as we take a look at some of the floats. This is the king of the parade. I presume it's him. He was a real stepper and a crowd pleaser, and he eventually got off his high horse and started to walk right down with the common folks, as all good kings should. So the crowds were enormous. I filmed this two ways, you know. I haven't kept it in sequence, but what the parade does is it goes north, and then it turns around the road to the airport, just south of Love Cafe, and it starts to come the other way on the other road. So you'll see eventually, as you can see, the two sides of the road, but one hasn't really filled in yet because the parade hasn't got that far. But you'll see them going both ways, and it gives you some idea of the excitement of the event. You know, the people are big fans here. The entire plaza is filled with vendors whose food is very good. You know, I didn't make it to the plaza. I had enough problems just getting to the Del Museo. But there's a seat for everybody here. You know, that for people who want to watch free, you can watch from the middle island, or you can watch from either the bayfront side or the museum side, so to speak. And there's always plenty of room. You can buy a seat, I guess, or seats are for rent sometimes, you know, whatever. But I had attended one in in Merida, and the seats were very expensive and crowded, and they were 3 or 4 deep, and it was not pleasant. This is a very pleasant way. Cozumel and San Miguel aren't huge. It's not a huge city, and there's a big long parade way here for the parade to go, so that it's the people aren't on top of one another. They kind of run out to the parade and shake hands with some of the stars, and get their pictures taken with them, and it's a real town affair, and it's one that in fact I particularly like to film, because you got to see that kind of interaction, which is one of the very nice things about Cozumel. It's big enough not to be boring, and it's small enough that you can go to a parade like this and you can run out. As you see, some of the people are now running out in the middle of things to shake hands with whoever it is that excites them. They don't do a lot of it. They're polite, but they like to, when they get excited, they like to show it. So what we see here now is just float after float after float. And the thing that I liked about it here is these floats weren't commercial. I don't think maybe I saw a Coca-Cola float. But in the other towns have been like Merida, it's a big city. Everybody who has a corporation has a float. There's nothing bad about the corporations. They are people, as they say, ha ha. But it's not the same as having your local groups, set up their float and their costumes. It's just personal pride, and it also shows some of the character of the people who live in Cozumel. It's a very exuberant time, and one that was entirely enjoyable, that the little kids who were sitting next to me up in the Del Museo restaurant were just enthralled by the whole thing. Here's one of the ladies who was a friend of Lynn's. She did a little hoochie coochie for me here. It was nice. She used to show there's her grandson, there's Lynn's grandson dressed as a pirate, El Pirata, I told him, and he was excited by it, as was her granddaughter. You'll see her in a second, a little blonde girl. She was so cute. And she thought she was looking at heaven, basically, There's one of the elaborate costumes you see that people do. These are people who just want to, who have an artistic taste, and who just set out to. There's a little blonde girl right there. she's in heaven, basically, right? That's all you can say. And this is a float full of lights. I don't know the names of any of the floats, and I can't tell you much about them. All I can say is some of them were pretty elaborate. Here's an Egyptian. I happen to know a lot about Egypt. There's Lynn herself without her mask on, and she really was excited by the parade as well. She's a real party girl, and she's not letting go. Of course, here are the famous, beautiful women of Cozumel. What can you say, And of course, the kind of synchronized dancer marchers who were terrific. Both men and women. You see them on the right there, and then of course the girls with the mostest on the platform to the left. You have to love the chicas. They're right in there. But these were women of. That in this group here, of various ages, but they knew how to dance, and they were out there, strutting their stuff. I'd give them an A+, for both costuming and for keeping in sync. And this is a long road, they start all the way down. I would presume, I haven't seen this start, but it has to be down around what I call a Barracuda Hotel, Barracuda, somewhere down there. And then it just starts to come up. So it's a long walk. I've walked that walk myself. You're coming from the Apartamentos Blanquita, where I'm staying on 10th Street, Calle Diaz Norte, down to the Barracuda to go snorkeling. They have nice steps down there. You can get into the water easily without killing yourself. When you get older, you kind of appreciate that kind of thing. I'm older, so I appreciate it. Well, right here is your Daffy Duck or Daffy Chicken, depending on what you think about them. And then just there were like little trucks full of crazies like this. They didn't have any theme or anything. They were just dressed up. And you have to have a gay truck. So here's the boys out there, dancing in their bikinis. And they look good. They're in good shape, And So everybody was represented. Let's put it that way, you know. Oh, I don't know. They had such elaborate costumes, you know. Some of the people that were just outrageous. And here's another synchronized group that's trying to get synchronized, and with a very, very kind of costume. There's your perennial bulls. I don't know how many bulls they had, but they had a lot of them, and they would go through little bullfights in the street. The matador always won, of course. You know, how else could it be? And there's some more giving a little shake there. That all right, you know, they're moving, and you can see the people lined up. There's one of the guys with a fabulous costume. Everybody wanted to get their picture taken with him. You'll see in a second that some of the younger people raced out to have their picture taken with that huge feather costume he has. I hope I have a picture of that where he stops. Yeah, there's some of the kids raced out to get their pictures taken with him. He says, sure, you know, come on out. So that's nice to have your picture taken with an elaborately costumed participant like that. Now we have that the parade has started to come back. It's turned around at the airport and it's on its way back. And so this is the kind of pandemonium that the parade really is. Once it starts going both ways and you have action coming and going, you have the music from all of the sound trucks all going at the same time. You can see why it would be wise not to use the original soundtrack. I don't know how. It's just impossible to use. It just it's like the Tower of Babel of music, you know. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So my music is a little bit slower than the music that was played, because that's played to a faster Latin beat, so the girls can really strut it. But it's about the speed of the marchers, you know, 60, 70 beats a minute. I use it for my spoken poetry, which goes about that pace, you know. It's the pace of ancient oral poetry. It's the heartbeat pace, you know. But it kind of works well here too, you know. It works because people are walking and they're kind of moving at that same kind of walking pace, even though a lot of the people are on floats. They can't move faster than the walkers because the walkers are all like in between them. There's this band here, which is, if I remember, was a very good drum band. And they get a little disorganized here. What are you going to do, you know? Here's the gay guys coming back. Right now we're looking at it. This is, on the left-hand side is pretty much, there's sometimes I'll switch to the coming back side on the left side, but generally you can tell by the way they're facing us whether they're coming up and from down by the Barracuda and the Mega Store, you know. But here's the fireworks that are going up around that neighborhood, you know. That's where the parade starts. They had a good fireworks section that took place in about the middle of the parade, you know, as I'm used to some pretty spectacular fireworks. There's one in New York every 4th of July, which is mind-blowing. And Washington, D.C., of course, they have plenty of money, the government, you know, and they have plenty of gunpowder, so they're not about to come in second. So they really blow up good fireworks, too. But for a small town, San Miguel, these guys did a nice job of the fireworks. They were beautifully coordinated, and both in their timing and their color and their type. So it's something that the town can be proud of. San Miguel, we're going to salute you for the fireworks. It was nicely done, nicely timed, and it just added that little spice or sabor, as the Mexicans like to say, to a already tasty event, you know. So here you see some more of the groups, and of course they're coming back the other side now. You see some of the large floats. Here's the waiters. That's Eduardo there in the middle. He's like the maitre d' there. He's a great guy. And he got me a good seat. And he takes care of everybody as customers. A lot of the people there who came were regular customers. They've come to recognize that the restaurant is a really nice one to go up. There's always a breeze there. there's Lynn. She's a regular customer with her husband there, and that's her little granddaughter there. And they've been coming there for years, and I know Eduardo too, and I also know Miguel, who is, you'll see him in a second, who kind of brought me some extra hors d'oeuvres. They had some very good food here, When I say that the food at the Dumb Museo isn't great, it's not a great cuisine, but it's good restaurant cuisine. They have the usual kind of American dishes, the kind of American Mexican dishes, that fajitas and all that stuff too. But they have a nice breakfast of eggs, which is very nice. And then at dinner they have a little bit more, so that if you want a place where primarily you want to go up and have a drink and get the view and get the breezes, since I review restaurants and I'm scrupulously honest about it, the food here is good. It's not bad food, it's good food, but it's not at the highest level you can get at some of the other restaurants that I recommend. But it's made up for by the view and by the waiters, by the whole ambience of the place is great. And it's a good place to know, because if you're here for the parade, you want to get a good seat. And that place, then it pays to be able to speak to Eduardo, and he'll tell you that he can get you a good seat, or he can. You should come on this night, maybe one of the earlier parades. But I would say it's good to book about 3 weeks ahead of time. And that way you can get in on the Tuesday, which is the real Mardi Gras Carnival Lenten celebration that you want to get in on. So here's some more marching bands. Here are some real cuties here. There's nothing like the young girls to make you feel as though life is going to go on despite all the problems that we have. They're just too enticing to stay away from, So we can be sure there'll be more young'uns coming up and being happily raised by their mamas as a result of that little enticement that we just saw there at the float. The boys will keep coming and the girls will keep enticing them, as only the Mexican girls do. They're very, very sexy in a nice way, They have a nice way about them. It's very sweet and friendly. And I don't know, these guys may be cross-dressers. I don't know what these guys were. So they're the hairiest girls I ever saw, though. But there's a lot of them out there. And they had another bull thing there. There's the bull again. The bull is Mrs. He just can't make the grade when it comes to sticking somebody. Let's see. There's another great drum band. Look at the boys. They're little. Some of them look like 7 or 8 years old or something. The kids are bigger. The ones with the big bass drums at the back. It's just nice to see kids out doing this, and there's that kind of thing that gives them a lot of pride in the city. And they took place in it. They looking back at it with their kids, when they're older. I did that. I did this, and so hope you liked it. I loved being at this parade.